And welcome back into the live edition of the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. We've got producer Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's live show. We'll run through everything going on around the Dallas Cowboys as they get set up for a Sunday night football matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, a super chat from Aubrey. Let Dak deal. With Cooks out, let Turpin get involved in the passing game. This opens things up, helps us be aggressive, no short stuff. Something tells me there's going to be a lot of short stuff in this one against the Steelers, if in part to protect your offensive line against a very, very dangerous pass rushing group out of Pittsburgh, which is battling some injuries too, which we'll get to later on in today's show. I do think Turpin makes a lot of sense as the guy to sub in, especially when you're okay going small. If you need to go big, I would almost put Flournoy in there over Jalen Brooks. But with Cooks out, if the theory of the Cowboys don't want two small guys out there back-to-back weeks, or on not back-to-back weeks, but both out there together, I would be very much open to giving more Kevontae Turpin run. I want you guys to grade Mike McCarthy for me as a play caller. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Grade him. A, B, C, D, or F. You can let me know how you feel about Mike McCarthy as a play caller. I see a lot of low numbers in there. D, C minus, C, D, D, F, F, C minus, D, C, C minus, D, 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 F. C minus is the highest grade I have seen, which I find quite interesting. C minus, L, C, D, C, F, C, D, D, another D. Yeah, low grades. Is anyone surprised by that? No, I don't think so. From We Don't Wife These 304, say super chat as well. Says Chris Sims looks like he's holding in a fart. Yeah, I don't like Chris Sims that much. My big issue with Sims is he tends to take a if you don't agree with me, you are just an idiot mindset, which I don't like when you have. I'll never forget his Will Anderson comment. So Will Anderson, great football player, right? Been awesome in Houston. He made the comment like, I don't know how you've watched the film and say Will Anderson is a good prospect. I know, right, Chris? Now, Chris is a Bama homer, but still. He's like, Anderson, he had him fifth among edge rushers that year. I'm like, no. And I like the arrogance behind it of like, if you disagree with me, you're an idiot. I don't like that on something so subjective as draft scouting. Like, I really don't like that. You know, it's fine to maybe have that with like, hey, my watch color is navy. Like, it might look black, but it's actually navy. Like, you know, like you can, that's fine. But subjective stuff, like, no. Let's talk trades, and we will talk another trade on today's show. Will the Cowboys make one before the NFL trade deadline? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments of today's live stream. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. I just don't know if it's going to be the big sexy trade that we all want them to make. I still wonder if deep down you're better off keeping your powder dry to make moves in the offseason, which you're kind of punting on this season, which I don't love in general, but at least you're not kneeling out the clock for the season, if that analogy makes sense. Daniel says 1, but will be a minor one. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. They love their guys. 0, 1 from Jacoby Mitchell. Robert says, I think so. C. Clark, Brent, Lone Wolf, Life with Geo, all typing in their zeros. It's not overly surprising, is it? All right, this is today's Super Chat menu. $20 for a shot, $50 for the beer bong, $100 is the bong, slap, and shot trio, $500 you get a custom Cowboys jersey, and the most hundreds over the course of October will get this jersey, the October MVP jersey, with number 24 for the 2024 on that front. Can sign it for you if you'd like, of course, that as well. I kind of assume anyone who is going to do that there once it's signed. So that is for the most hundreds in October. Anthony McMillan won the full-sized helmet, so I'll get that shipped out to Anthony this weekend. But that is the Super Chat menu. 20, 50, 100, 500, and the most hundreds total in the month of October gets that. All right, who you got in this one? The Sunday night football game. Boy, this is about as low as I can recall seeing it, Chris. 83% are voting in favor of the Cowboys. That is it. That is not a very high figure at all. That is not a high number that we're accustomed to seeing. It's just pretty darn low, which I get it. Truly I do. Like it is a bad situation to be in if you're the Cowboys. You are down a lot of key players, missing a lot of things. Like not great. C or S in the comments section. Brent's got the Cowboys winning 9-3. I do think it'll be a lower scoring game because the Steelers' defense is great and their offense is not so great. I like how Food Review calls it. A stoppable force versus a movable object. Yes, that's exactly what it is. We'll see how it plays out on Sunday night. Weather might not be great. We'll see. It's also, I don't normally get too bent out of shape about like the weather forecast on a Thursday. The weathermen are never right, especially in the Midwest, if we can count Pittsburgh in the Midwest and not East Coast, which I still think counts Midwest, but that's for a different conversation. Or Upper Atlantic or whatever the hell you want to call it, Chris. Fine. Whatever. It's fringe north. It's kind of like in that weird separate category of like it's almost Northeast, it's almost Atlantic, it's still Midwestern vibes, blue collar. I don't know. Anyway, C or S for me in the comments section of today's show. From Tommy Buster, a $2 super chat. Does anyone believe in not speaking or it will? I honestly don't know what he means by this. So, Tommy, I appreciate your super chat, my friend. From We Don't Wife These 304, should we sign Dan Cilio to play defensive tackle? It's a throwback name. He did play. I think he played for the Cowboys a long, long time ago. It was also very funny because I called him out on being wrong on something about the Cowboys, and then he sent me like a screenshot of him emailing Stephen Jones, and like he included the response from Stephen, which was just CCing his assistant. I'm like, dude, can you help out Dan? And just like passed him off. And I'm like, Dan, you don't know what just happened to you, buddy. you just got passed right along. You got forwarded, dude. All right, Abja Pawar. Do you feel that Mike McCarthy coaches scared in big games? Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I think his team plays a little bit scared as a result. Like they've done this, and it's not just the McCarthy. They did it under Garrett too. Big game happens, they kind of go into their conservative little shell where they play to not lose the game, and then they end up losing the game. So yeah, I do think that's the case. You know, when was the last time a Cowboys team in a big game came out throwing haymakers and going down swinging? I don't recall that. If they do, it comes in a far too little too late scenario, not early on in the game. From Roman Wolf Gaming, trade Adams, but how do we create cap space for next year? I think you mean trade for Adams. So if you're trading for Devontae Adams, you're probably either going to treat it as a rental and just pay out this year's contract, which Dallas is not interested, by the way, or you're going to extend him and adjust his non-guaranteed $32.5, I think it was, $1 million salary next year. You can pretty easily create $100 million in salary cap space. As of right now, you're going to roll over around $26 million. That factors in, the extra 3 or so you have right now. The rollover counts on that. So you're at 26 to 29, somewhere in that range, depending on what the starting point is and the actual salary cap figure. I actually had this all saved. Let me pull it up here. You can move on from guys like Terrence Steele, create like $14 million after the post-June 1st deadline. You flip the plan, which is on Dak and CeeDee Lamb. It's $36 and $20 million respectively. You can restructure Trayvon Diggs, save $5 million if you want to. Can cut your safeties, Malik Hooker, Don Wilson, if you want to save $8 million. I'm already past $100 million right now. And I can save more if I want to restructure Micah Parsons and extend him and not let that drag out till September or August like we know that they're going to do. But they've got money to spend. They've got a ton of money to spend. It's a matter of, do they want to spend it properly? Or do they want to take this 5-year grand plan thing, which I would take more of a 3 to 4 year plan, and then I can either extend it by restructuring more deals or I can actually take a little bit of a rebuild. I'd rather be more focused on winning now. Now, if you want us to start today's live show, I need you to like it. We are always looking for that 50% like ratio. That is not where we're at. We're not actually at a very good figure. We got 300 plus people watching live right now, and 50 likes. They didn't even get to 69 likes, which always makes me sad and a little bit disappointed there. So if you want us to start today's show, then like the video for me. I think we got to get to at least 100 likes. We should be able to double that figure pretty easily. If that's a third of you people watching haven't liked it yet, just do it right now for me. A $2 super chat from Tommy Buster. Caleb Farley got a futures deals. Want to get him up? I think that Farley had to get a little bit healthy. I think that was part of the reason why he was still unsigned. The only way I can get him now is if I promote him to the active roster, and I don't want to go down that path right now. I would have loved to have signed him to a practice squad deal. Because I just want to see if the injuries can subside long enough for him to get some developmental time there. I think he's going to go down as a great what-if player of, man, what if Caleb Farley had stayed healthy? Because he was so good at Virginia Tech, but he's barely played football the past 4 or 5 years. It's really actually heartbreaking, frankly. Plus all the stuff he's gone through on a personal level. It just sucks. So I think it's probably maybe next offseason you can try to revisit that one. Coming up on today's live show, we've got Cowboys news and I think a pretty interesting trade rumor I want to discuss. We will also discuss Mike McCarthy, and I'll save the rant. All I will say is, a year later, when I did this video last time, this was more under bye-week changes and stuff. It's a little bit different this time. A year later, I am complaining about and so are so many of you out there, complaining about the exact same stuff. The exact same issues you still have. Ultra frustrating for me. We'll get to a mailbag as well, so get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or via Super Thanks to skip that line, or Super Chat, or Super Thanks on demand, obviously. And we'll preview Cowboys versus Steelers, all coming up live here on the Cowboys Report. We are this close from 197,000 subscribers here on the Cowboys Report. We are 30 subs away. I think we can get there on this video alone. Help us get to 197. Help put that 200,000 goal within reach. Hit that sub button for more free Cowboys videos each and every single day. Let's talk Cowboys injuries here. The first one we've known about, Micah Parsons and that ankle. He is not going to go against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's been the expectation for a while now. He will not be available. The surprise on yesterday was, surprise, Brandin Cooks can't go. Wasn't a good development there. Has an infection in his knee. He and the Cowboys have said, it's a week. We'll see how long he's actually out for. I kind of question that a little bit. We will monitor that one pretty closely next week. Remember, it's Steelers this week, Lions, then the bye, if the Cowboys want to play it conservative, as Mike McCarthy often does. And in this context, conservative is probably not a bad thing, by the way. One player to monitor, it sounds like, is going to get his first call-up to, activation for the 48-man roster. That is Ryan Flournoy. He should be out there for the Cowboys in this one, available to play, and maybe does some stuff. He's got some size and speed that you don't really have. Maybe he can make something happen for you. I would still think he's kind of buried on the depth chart and target status overall. Next up is Caelen Carson. Now, I think this is one that's going to be worth monitoring throughout the week. He was limited on Wednesday, but then Mike McCarthy said he had to do more on Thursday. And as of filming, it was kind of a later practice for the Cowboys. No details on how involved Caelen Carson was. He'll probably get that questionable designation once we get to it on the Friday injury report heading into the Sunday evening contest there. Carson's been a little up and down, all things considered. He has not, by any stretch of the imagination, been a perfect player. 2 pass breakups, 7 first downs. I did flip that on accident, my bad. But 1 touchdown, it was a good route, and he could have done more there. Deron Bland's not back yet. Caelen Carson was replaced by Andrew Booth in the injured game when he was injured in week 4. Booth got benched, and they called up Amani Oruwariye. I think we'll get a good vibe for how close Caelen Carson is to really being able to play based on if the Cowboys promote Oruwariye from the practice squad again, which they might do anyway, so they don't have to risk playing Andrew Booth, but that's a different conversation. Then there's Markquese with his ankle injury. He was a full participant on Wednesday, so again, barring a surprise setback or something negative between now and game day, that's a pretty clear sign he's going to be able to play, which I find funny that McCarthy had said last week Carson was closer than Bell. Seems like that's flipped a little bit. Bell has not played very much this year, which I am kind of frustrated by. I thought he was awesome last season. Now, he was playing out of position. He was playing that linebacker role because they were so decimated by injuries there. They put the 220-ish pound guy down there, and he was great in coverage, had some issues in run support at times. Some of those issues kind of go away as he gets further away from the line of scrimmage. But I do think the play of Donovan Wilson and Malik Hooker, it would probably be Bell for Wilson, Wanye Thomas for Malik Hooker if you're subbing guys out. It's a pretty big question mark right now. And I've been disappointed relative to the expectations there. So should Markquese start for the Dallas Cowboys? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comments section, the pinned comment, actually, of today's show. That ad comes on YouTube. Take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Couple Steelers injury updates I want to get to. Nick Herbig had been upgraded to limited on Thursday. Sounds like he's going to be able to play. However, I don't anticipate the Steelers having their second best pass rusher out there. Alex Highsmith sounds like he's going to miss at least this game. Whether he's been officially ruled out or not yet, I'm not totally sure. Which would mean more Nick Herbig. They've kind of played DeMarvin Leal as that piece. Highsmith is a pretty big loss for Pittsburgh. That is certainly one worth monitoring. Michael Pruitt is banged up right now. The tight end that will probably lead to more Connor Hayward snaps. They got 5 anyway. They're fine there. 2 running backs who were both DNPs on Thursday. Does not bode well for them. Jaylen Warren and Cordero Patterson trending towards not playing. A quick note, by the way, Larry Ogunjobi limited on Thursday. That one's worth monitoring because that popped up as a new injury. Would be a big loss up front. But with likely no Warren and no Cordero Patterson, the Steelers have already prepped this move. They have called up Aaron Champlin from the practice squad. And if you're going, wait a minute, I recognize that name, you should. That is Cowboys legend Aaron Champlin, who was like their 7th running back at one point in the preseason. If he runs all over you, I'm going to lose my mind. Because that is a player who was not good enough to make your team. And now here he is being on the Steelers' active roster. I think it'll be a heavy dose of Najee Harris. Today's show is made possible by Game Time. Game Time has a new feature. It's called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats. So you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. It's curation to help you save even more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. The all-in pricing total. Toggle that feature on or off so you have no surprise fees at checkout. The Game Time guarantee is this. They will credit you 110% of the difference of your ticket if you find one in the same section and row for less. So what are you waiting for? If you're going to a football game, if you're going to a late in the game MLB playoff game, whatever it is, concerts, comedy, theater, and more, Game Time has you covered. Download the Game Time app, create your account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. But again, create your account, redeem code CHATSPORTS, ChatSports for $20 off. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Download Game Time. So what time is it? It's game time. Let's talk Travis Etienne. This has been a pretty popular rumor or idea or hopeful optimism, whatever you want to call it, on social media the past really couple days, frankly, but picked up some steam today, which we'll get to in a second. First off, it was Katie Drummond, friend of the show over at Cowboys Wire, listing Jags running back Travis Etienne as a trade target. He also mentioned moving a second rounder as part of it, which we'll come back to. Then one of their insider pieces, ESPN and Jeremy Fowler specifically mentioning Travis Etienne as potential trade candidates if it all goes belly up in Jacksonville and they start selling NFL players. They had 5 names on that list. Christian Kirk, who might be a bit too expensive for your organization. Devin Lloyd, Walker Little, Andre Cisco, maybe make a little bit less sense for Dallas specifically. But Travis Etienne was also mentioned in that area. Now, specifically as it relates to a second-round pick idea. On one hand, you can't draft in the second round, so you might as well trade it every year. I would actually trade down and get a third instead, but I digress, or extra threes and fourth, whatever it is. A second rounder in a bubble for Etienne is too much. I also don't know if it would really cost that much. I mean, think about the trades we've seen at running backs over the years. Outside of Christian McCaffrey, they haven't been overly expensive. I don't think Etienne's a McCaffrey-esque player in any way. They've been fairly cheap over the past couple of seasons. Now, running backs are still devalued in the NFL. I think the running game is coming back in vogue, but I think that's sometimes less about the running back itself and more about the other stuff involving player offensive line, schemes, etc., whatever. It also does require the Jags to want to move him and say, we're going to sell pieces, we're going to reset, retool, we will move on from Travis Etienne for whatever that draft pick ends up looking like. So with that in mind, we'll spend a lot more time on Etienne, the player here. What draft pick would you trade for Travis Etienne? Is it 2 or you're going to go a little bit lower there? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Assuming, which is a big assumption, what happens when you assume, the Jags want to shop him, what would you give up for him? Travis Etienne, the first 2 years of his healthy career, 2022, 2023 was a 1,000-yard rusher in both of them. There have been some foot issues previously that maybe are more long-term red flags than necessarily and I mean long-term, by the way. Has been okay this year. And has still been Jacksonville's best playmaker on the ground, although Tank Bigsby's busted off a couple of nice long runs that has juiced his efficiency and his average per carry to a very high level. With that said, the 214 yards you've gotten in the 4 games Jacksonville has played, not incredibly high, but also still just outside of that 1,000-yard threshold he's gotten previously. The advanced stats, by the way, actually even better for Travis Etienne. Rush yards over expected per attempt. It's a little bit of a big play factor metric. It involves some broken tackles. Can you make more guys miss? He's 15th in football. The yards per carry is at 4.6. Yards after contact is 4.3. He's making a lot of guys miss after contact. That's indicative of an individual playmaking there. 8th in explosive plays. By the way, that is double the combined explosive plays on the ground for the Cowboys this year, and 8x any running back you have, since Lamb has 3 of your 4. Success rate is above league average at 16th out of the 53 qualifying backs on NFL Pro, and averaging 4.8 yards per carry inside the tackles, even though he has great athletic juice at his 4.45 speed at 5'10", 215, a little bit shorter than Dallas typically likes those backs. I am intrigued here, because I think he fits what I want to do once I fire Mike McCarthy next year, assuming I do that, which is to get some more outside zone stuff. He has the speed to do it and do some more duo runs. He also has run very well between the tackles this year, which is all Mike McCarthy wants to do. So I actually am very intrigued by Etienne, depending on the cost involved and if Jacksonville wants to move him and if the Cowboys would actually do something. On that note, will the Cowboys make a trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Let me know in the comments of today's video. This Cowboys team has said that they like their backs. Opening the year was Ezekiel Elliott as RB1, Dowdle's RB2, Deuce Vaughn's RB3, Lipke's the fullback. Funny how much things have changed from that season opening depth chart, right? Dowdle's taken the majority of the snaps at running back. Lipke's playing a huge role. And Ezekiel Elliott has had his snap count drop each and every single week. Might jump back up this week because it can't really get all that much lower. Now, the Cowboys will tell you, we don't have the money, we can't spend. It's not true. They do. And Etienne's actually pretty cheap. $2.42 million this year. That is a prorated figure. So it's actually whatever's left of his base salary, which roughly half. You can kind of guesstimate it there. So you're talking $1 million and change, 1.3, whatever you want to call it. It's very, very affordable. 2025, his 5th-year option, $6.14 million. Then he becomes a free agent. You could extend him if you feel good about him as a piece of your backfield. And amounts to what? 2 years, $8 million is cheaper than a lot of the backs. And it's not like that much. put it this way. It's about what you paid Zeke Elliott this season. Pretty damn similar. So what I'm saying is this. The Cowboys can afford him if they want to. Now, the want to might be an issue there. And I wish they would just say that stuff instead of saying, oh, we have no money available. We've spent all of our money. It's just not true. The big angle for me here, the more than 1 year does help me. Like that puts it as not just a rental when I don't know if I want to be a team that rents. Like I'm looking more big picture here. I don't need to have a rental property as well as the house I've got right now. But that does intrigue me a little bit more as it relates to some of the other top trade targets. I do like the angle for Etienne if you can get him affordably, which is always the big question mark, right? Now, congratulations here to Brandin Aubrey. He is the NFC Special Teams Player of the Month. So spam the alien emoji in the comment section of today's show. Let me know. Let's see. Like Diggs popping up on the injury report today with an ankle injury. That's a little bit worrisome. So I'm looking at it now. Zeke and Flournoy both needed IVs. So that's also not something that I am intrigued by. To monitor that Diggs one, by the way. I'm going to change that for the preview, Chris, if you can add Trayvon Diggs' ankle to it. Then it's worth monitoring. I don't like him popping up on that injury report there with that. Guyton was full with the shoulder, so probably nothing to be too concerned about there. But don't like that very much. Because whenever I see limited after having nothing going on, it means he did something to himself during practice. That's how I normally interpret that. Maybe we'll know more before we get to the end of the show. That would be nice to know there. So, oh look. Dan Rogers, once again, carrying the water for the Cowboys. Go figure. Who could have seen that one coming? Spam those alien emojis and some super chats we'll get to here. Object Pawar. On that note, would you say Dak and CD have massive of McCarthy's flaws as a coach? Also, Lance and Brooks for Devontae Adams. Yes, on Dak and CD. I also, like, if you didn't have those two guys, you'd be in a really bad spot. So I wouldn't necessarily chalk up to just those two guys. And there is stuff that McCarthy does well. I'm going to rant on him in a little bit, so I'll kind of save my energy for that to an extent. The Raiders are not taking Trey Lance and Jalen Brooks for Devontae Adams. There's no way they go, I like that idea. That's a bad trade for Vegas. That's a third-string QB and the team's number 5 receiver. That's not going to move the needle in any capacity for the Dallas Cowboys. Not remotely, frankly. Some more super chats we'll get to here from Tommy Buster. Didn't Zeke hurt his foot? Wink, wink. IR. I don't think you'd ever have that happen. I think that this organization top down is, and especially given how much they want to run the ball up the middle, like I don't see him doing that. They'll let him be the third string back like he is right now, which I guess, and that includes Lipke as your 2 in that conversation. But where you're at. Some more super chats coming in here from Chris B is next up. He says, I'm tired of the no money excuse every year. Next year, they will open up bare min and say they can only pay Parsons, but drag it on through training camp. The front office stinks. I am worried they're going to do that. That is partially why I keep telling people, hey, you can have plenty of salary cap space available. The money excuse is not real. They use it as an excuse to not justify, or to justify why they don't want to spend. But it is an excuse. And I don't like them continuously gaslighting people. And people are like, well, this is what they mean. Okay, that's not what they said. Like, you don't get to change the entire wording of what was said into what they meant and say, well, I'm taking it out of context. No, you're changing the context and the actual meaning of the actual definition of what was said to fit your context. That is why I don't like them lying. Chris B. Again, do they fire McCarthy at 2-4 at the bye or after the 49ers loss? I almost wonder if they were 2-5 going into the bye, if they'd be a bit more intrigued there. I also could see a scenario where the Cowboys, and this actually might be a more valid excuse than others, say, you know what, we were down Micah and Tank and Brandin Cooks. It's still early in the year. The schedule gets easier as they move forward. So let's just let things play out. And let's not make a rash decision, so to speak, and jump ahead on that front. So I'd be a little surprised if they made a decision after the bye. Like, that's my mindset. I think they will buy a little bit more time. Chris B, also media defending the front office are clowns. Dan Rogers. He just responded to my last tweet with a very long message. I'm just going to ignore him. It's honestly not worth my energy anymore. It's once again, he's like, oh, he's being honest with you. No, he's not. When they get up there and say, we don't have money, and that's framed as they don't want to spend, that's two different things. That is two completely different things. They aren't saying we don't want to spend frivolously, which they aren't, and they're spending at a below average rate. And I am tired of pretending that they aren't. I'm over it. And look, there are very few. I'm just gonna. I don't feel like starting fights. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Fights require energy. I don't have the energy for it. Today's Super Chat menu is this. $20 for a shot, $50 for a beer bong, $100 for the bong, slap, and shot trio, $500 the custom Cowboys jersey, most hundreds in October. I almost said September again. Like 3 times already. It's like I can't remember what day it is. Gets the MVP jersey. It's number 24. October MVP on it. We'll sign it if that's the route you want to go. If that's what you want. Whoever ends up winning it. Guys, got to be Anthony. I'm not going to lie. Anthony is the heavy betting favorite. By a pretty big margin, he is the favorite because he like doubled up everybody else. He doubled everybody else. So he is the betting favorite to win the October MVP jersey here. One more super chat we'll get to from Chris B in just a second. He says, don't have money yet? Land on my helicopter on my field. So I actually don't. I'm actually fine with that. Who cares? I don't, for me, it's about how they spend their cash. And they still have cash available to spend more than their salary cap space does. I'm fine. I am fine with having the helicopter. Maybe it's some bad optics, but whatever. Just, it's kind of two different things for me. And I'm not going to use it as evidence of, they're not spending their cash. It's not that they're not spending their money that it bothers me. It's that they're not spending like the rest of the NFL. They're spending significantly less than the NFL. That frustrates me because it's just not true. And then it becomes, they don't mean they're not spending money. It's just that they don't want to spend the money. That's my damn point. That they aren't saying they want to spend properly. They say they spend the maximum, and that is categorically untrue. That's what I don't like. You're kind of like, no shots at it. People are making my point. When you don't want to spend, you're saying they don't want to spend frivolously. That's my point. They aren't saying that. They're saying they've spent all of their money. That they can't afford it. Come on. Those are two different things. That's what bothers me. Salary cap is how you manage and how you account for the cash you are spending. The cash the Cowboys are spending is lower than the rest of the NFL on average. That is a fact. So they are choosing not to spend. Stop telling me they have spent all that they can. Those are two different arguments. All right, we'll save that for another day and move to a different rant that I will go on now instead. I'm not happy with Mike McCarthy right now. I think that he was, I'll preface this by saying, he was put in a bad situation with a team that actively chose to get worse this past season. With that said, I think Mike McCarthy and his frankly outdated NFL philosophy is failing the Cowboys offense. And not only that, he's doing it again. I went back and watched some of my videos that were posted around this time last year when the offense was struggling. They were getting ready for the early bye. Here was a summation of my complaints. They're not doing outside runs. It's all right up the middle. Their motion rate is bad. They are not pushing the ball downfield. They need to steal more of the good plays. We're here again. It is the exact same issues. This team, after the bye last year, made changes, made adjustments, got more motion involved, pushed the ball downfield more, force-fed CeeDee Lamb, stole some good plays from these Shanahan-based offenses. And then after the disaster of the postseason, they said, what if we went back to our Week 1 early season 2023 offense? I don't understand that. It's a failure of your coaching staff, even though there are other aspects at play here. Here's what I think happened. I'm not buying the conspiracy theory of the Joneses don't want motion, period, so they're dictating to Mike. I think what happened, with his back against the wall, fighting for his coaching job this season, Mike McCarthy, as Jason Garrett has done previously, as this organization does in close, hard-fought, tight playoff-style games, they go to what they're comfortable with and what the coaching staff likes. And that static looks on offense, run the ball up the middle, trying to be conservative, coaching scared, play calling scared, so you don't lose games, and then you end up losing games. That is my issue. And I've got a lot of evidence to prove this here. We'll get to in a second. Before we get to that, I want you guys to grade Mike McCarthy as a play caller. A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know at the pinned comments of today's video how you feel about Mike McCarthy as the Cowboys play caller in what we've seen for a year and a half now in Dallas. So a lot of different things I want to get into here. I'm going to start with the one that I've already spent more time on, so I don't want to go too far into it. It's the ground game. You know, I've complained about the constant inside zone runs, a lack of duo and outside zone stuff. Here are the numbers this year, all per NFL Pro. Cowboys are 30th in yards per carry, 30th in inside yards per carry, better on outside runs. Now, the total yards carry not changing is indicative of how much inside runs they have because they're not, the 3.8 is not boosting things up there. It's not a massive difference. But if you're not going to run duo, run more outside stuff. Remember that one game last year where they stole that Shanahan toss play and then they never called it again? They had some good runs off it. Never called it again. It also, I think, fits Rico Dowdle better. Zeke's a better inside runner, but it's going to get you 3 to 4 yards more often than not at a kind of concerning rate. Dowdle can give you some more outside juice there. The best running teams in football right now aren't doing a ton of inside zone. They're running a ton of duo. That has become kind of the meta of the ground game in the NFL. They mix in some counters. They do some power stuff. They do some outside zone, pitch, etc. They're not just down blocking inside zone over and over. They're a little bit more creative and set themselves up for more success. My issue here, I don't trust this coaching staff to adjust. They watched the running game before they got rid of Joe Philbin, which was kind of an ownership dictated thing, and brought in Mike Solari. They watched duo with Zach Martin and Terrence Steele be awesome. Like, they were impactful running duo off the right side. That was their best run play. And they've stopped calling it for the most part because the coaching staff doesn't want to. It was an issue last year. It is still an issue this year. They haven't made any changes at all, really. None. So what is your confidence level in Mike McCarthy? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. I Want honest answers here? Sound off in the comments section. Saw Cowboys motion usage here. First, in the first quarter, this is by quarters, right? Cowboys have run 43 total motion plays. That's 8th in the NFL. Then they've gotten away from it. 26th, 31st, 27th, or 23rd in total motion plays. Now, McCarthy has made some comments. It was kind of a coaching word salad, but part of what he had said was, look, our game scripts have been bad. We haven't been able to do the motion stuff maybe the way we'd like to. That would suggest, okay, that makes sense. There's some evidence for that. It's also down across the board this year, even in the first quarter. They were 4th last year in motion in the first quarter. Now, that was kind of juice later on in the year. That's part of the whole conversation, right? 11th, 20th, 12th, 14th. Some pretty big drop-offs there, which I think is actually pretty concerning. Now, again, the game scripts are a very valid possible reason as to, hey, why'd the motion get lower? Why are you not using as much motion? You also might be able to say, hey, we got rookie offensive linemen, some young players. You know, we already have so many pre-snap penalties. We don't want to add more complications. I can understand that. Also, you're not doing your job as a coach. If you can't get your guys to not false start, that's a you problem, buddy. It doesn't justify all of it, by the way. Because even in games where the Cowboys have had a better, more comfortable, non-having to play 2-minute offense stuff game script, motion hasn't been the highest necessarily, which I think is something you have to consider. The motion snaps by game. They did 42 in week 1, and they were down 24th, 25th in the NFL in week 2 and week 3, and 28th this past week. They led that game consistently. They were consistently utilizing massive amounts of motion in week 1. They had more snaps. Again, that's part of this whole conversation. But your motion by game has dropped. That should be a red flag. I cannot blame the game script or whatever we want to say in week 4. That you had a positive game script the entire time. All right? And most importantly, I don't think you use your motion properly. Here's what Luke Kuechly, the future NFL Hall of Fame linebacker, said recently. I think it was on the Daniel Jeremiah podcast about motion. He says, say it's 2x2 and the slot receiver motion is 3x1. So 3 receivers out wide, 1 on the other side. There's no stress on anybody in the second level of the defense. The nickel comes over, the Micah will switch, you configure our rotation, it's easy. But now you're playing the 49ers, and Deebo Samuel is going Mach 5 coming across the formation. The more speed that happens pre-snap on the offensive side of the ball, the more stress it puts on the defense. I don't know if he's getting the ball, if he's running the ball, if it's a passing route. I don't know what it is. It makes the run defense really hard because you can't move downhill. All your movement as a backer is lateral. Stress on a defense is caused by pre-snap motion and the speed at which they do it. The Cowboys don't do that. How many times do you see exactly what Luke Kuechly described? The back four goes left, back to the right to check out the man defense. Is it zone? That's fine. That's valuable. I like that. But they don't stress the defense with their motion. Mike McCarthy keeps talking about motion with a purpose. What Luke Kuechly described is motion with a purpose. And the Cowboys don't do it. In particular, I think motion at the snap can be very low. It's exactly what Luke Kuechly described. Some of the most fun and dynamic offenses do a ton of motion at the snap. The Cowboys are bottom 5 in football with New England, Jacksonville, Cleveland, and Carolina. It's not like those are great offenses. By the way, last in the NFL, you know what Patriots OC is? Alex Van Pelt, a.k.a. Mike McCarthy's old protege, his quarterback's coach in Green Bay. That's probably not an accident. Motion at the snap, in particular, is a new-ish idea in the NFL, and it has drastically changed. It was at 4% in 2017 per ESPN's analytics and Seth Walter. It is now 26%. That is how often there is motion at the snap during a play. The Cowboys are at 11.1%. I'm not saying this is some magical cure-all solution. You run motion pre-snap, boom, offense is fixed. but it helps you. It puts stress on the defense. And the Cowboys don't use it. And in particular, they don't use it on run plays. 62.5% of their motion plays are passes because it's left and right, back and forth. And when they do that speed motion stuff, it's oftentimes a run. Bit of a giveaway. Because the run and pass game for this Cowboys team, they don't look similar. How many times can we tell, there's that waggle play, and when they motion the tight end fullback, it's a little bit more balanced of if it's a pass or not. When the receiver goes back left and then to the right or vice versa, that is always a pass. Almost always. It's kind of a tell, frankly, for smart defensive teams that you play in the postseason, right? So in general, do you agree with me? Should the Cowboys use more motion? Y for yes, N for no. Now, the other part I want to discuss here is the lack of help your head coach is giving your quarterback. Now, PFF unveiled this week. It's what they call ISO percentage. It is the number of dropbacks in which a quarterback doesn't have motion, doesn't have play action, doesn't use quick game passing concepts, doesn't get an RPO, doesn't get a screen. So it's like, this is just pure drop back and throw the ball stuff, right? Now, there's a lot of other things that go on here. Negative game scripts can be a factor. Make no mistake about it, because you can't really run play action when you're down by 20, etc. I think it's also a coaching stat. Is your coach calling the fun stuff, right? Here are the numbers this year. This is not a great group to be in. Bryce Young was dead last. Now, he won't last forever because his snap counts are going to go down. Bo Nix was at 48.2%. Dak Prescott's at 47.8%. Caleb Williams at 43. Will Levis at 42. That is a stark contrast to last year. Bryce Young was super high still. Derek Carr went from 56.5 to he's like 14% this year. All of a sudden, he looks better. Go figure, right? Will Levis, meanwhile, still pretty high. Russell Wilson playing in the same Denver Broncos offense, pretty high. That's clearly a Sean Payton stat right there. Last year, Dak Prescott was at 28.2%. It's a big difference. You're not calling the fun stuff, the good stuff, the stolen stuff you were calling last season. We'll talk more about some passing game stuff I have issues with, but you can get the Cowboys turnover chain over at chatsports.com/Cowboys chain. The link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. That is normally on sale, so make sure you're getting the best deal for yourself. Click that link, chatsports.com/Cowboys chain. We've brought this up before, and I'm not going to stop. The tight window throw percentage this year for the Dallas Cowboys is the most of any quarterback in football, 27.5%. Now, you've got two Shanahan-based offense guys there, or one's a McVay, but still, and Brock Purdy, Kirk Cousins. Bryce Young's near the bottom. Aaron Rodgers near the bottom. Some of this is receiver stuff. Some of it's scheme stuff. Some of it's maybe you're not hitting the right throws. It's not just a magical stat, but I think it's very, very informative, especially when you compare to previous seasons. This is the highest figure for Dak Prescott since 2022, since 2023, when he consistently was near the top of the NFL. Your outlier years were 2021 and 2020 because you had Amari Cooper. And I think that's a little bit of a 3 to 4 to 5% difference on targeted throws, right? Tight window throws are not just a coaching schematic thing. But doesn't it match our eye test? That's why you keep seeing so much of the tight window throw and average separation stats getting thrown out there. Because we're watching live and going, man, it seems like there's nobody open. And that's what we're seeing. Not many guys getting open, and the numbers are matching that. The data says, yeah, your eyes aren't lying to you. There's a lot of tight throws in there. Now, the seam shot Dak loves, that's pretty much always going to be a tight window throw. But where are the easy buttons on this team? How many times have I said during a broadcast, wide open guy against the Cowboys versus wide open guy for the Cowboys? It's a big difference, and it feels that way. It is Mike McCarthy's job as a head coach and as an offensive play caller to make life easier on his players and put them in the best position possible to maximize what you are calling to your player's skill set. And I don't think Mike McCarthy does a very good job of doing that. Still not done, by the way. We got Cowboys videos for you, though, each and every single day. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button right now. We'll look at this metric here. Now, this is yards after catch over expected. It's mostly based on player tracking. Like, you should be able to make this guy miss or that guy miss and other stuff from NFL's next-gen stats. The numbers are not great. Now, Dallas is like 7th or 8th in yak over expected because of one man. It's CeeDee Lamb. 109 yards over expected after the catch. Ferguson's -2, Dowdle's -5, Tolbert's -8, Cook's -14. Now, a tight end being low, that kind of makes some sense. He's a tight end, right? He's not supposed to be some shifty playmaker. Tolbert and Cooks are pretty low, though. So let's be honest about this wide receiving core and this playmaking core. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, these guys don't do a great job of getting open on their own or making guys miss, at least on a consistent basis. You want to get explosive plays, you got to get guys open downfield, or you got to do some yak stuff. Shanahan does a bunch of yak stuff. It's actually down this year because of some injuries and guys not being available for the beginning of the year. But you have to help out. If your players are a little bit limited, if your front office failed you a little bit, your job as a coach has to be to generate some semblance of schematic advantage. Does anyone here believe that there is a schematic advantage with Mike McCarthy calling the plays? Do we feel that way? Because I don't. Because everything about this offense, moving the ball downfield, all of it feels like a challenge. Like, oh, man, okay, we're in 3rd and 3. Let's go. Oh, man, 2nd and 7. Oh, man, has a tight window throw to pick up 11. I keep coming back to that Hunter Lipke play last week where Dak Prescott does like 5 incredible things to pick up 11 yards, where he goes to read 1, to read 2, pressure in his face, spins away from it, looks off a guy, throws a dart to Lipke in a tight window throw for 11 yards. It's a lot of stuff to do. There's no just, we ran play action and got a deep guy open on a dig over the middle. But that doesn't happen with this team. I think that is a coaching issue, first and foremost. I'll get to our mailbag here on today's show. 2 ways to get in. Use hashtag Cowboys or skip the line altogether with a super chat. That's hashtag Cowboys or super chat. Skip that line altogether. I still have no further details on the Trayvon Diggs being limited, but it does worry me a little bit because I don't like it when there's a surprise limited. Dowdle and Guyton both had full participants, but that's something. Someone's like, Hayward didn't practice. Yeah, it's rest. He's fine. Don't worry about that. So get your questions in via hashtag Cowboys or skip that line altogether via super chat. Sip some water here. Hashtag Cowboys or super chat to skip that line. Back's tight. Appreciate you, Dwayne, getting in there with that super chat. We got Tommy DC, Chris B as the 3 last ones that we'll have on today's show. So once producer Chris gives me the all clear, we'll get going here with today's mailbag. Again, it's hashtag Cowboys or super chat. Some super thanks to kick off today's mailbag here on the Cowboys Report from Marcus Arnold. Thanks. Give the Raiders a second. Zach Martin and Trey Lance start Bass or Hoffman now. Help the defense by scoring 40 a game. Although Zach Martin is now mortal, I don't want to suddenly make him a trade asset and overpay as part of a Davante Adams trade. Second and Trey Lance? Sure. I'm going to ride it out for one more year with Zach Martin. Then, because I still don't think Bass or Hoffman are better. I don't think they're better players right now. So I would not trade Zach Martin a second and a Trey Lance for Davante Adams. Martin looks human. You are right on that. He's still a good football player, though. From Trilogy, Jerry and Steven seem to love old vets, so go get the old vet that's productive. This is about Davante Adams, but by the way. Cooks is the slot. Bench Brooks at Tolbert and Flournoy share the 4 spot. I'm down to bench Brooks for Flournoy. I do think my issue with Cooks is less like pure slot and outside. It's more, before he got injured, by the way, it's more you're just kind of like not not maximizing his routes by just doing a bunch of comeback stuff. Like I don't love that necessarily. I think it's more of a less like deployment and more usage, if that differentiation makes some sense. Now those came in via Super Thanks. It's like a super chat that you can do on demand. You can edit your message, send in whatever you want. Click that little thanks icon on demand. You'll see the little heart with the dollar sign in it. Click that. Send in whatever you want because we appreciate your support, and we will always give you a shout-out if you do a super thanks, even if it is, Tom, you suck. From Rocky, does Amari make more sense than Adams? From a money cost perspective, yes. From a trade cost perspective, maybe. From a Cowboys ownership perspective, I don't think so. My biggest issue with the hypothetical Amari Cooper trade is would your front office, because he's probably going to cost more than the fifth that you got for him, would your front office go, yeah, we screwed up. Like we've made a mistake. We want you back. It was our fault. We're the ones who let it get personal. We're the ones who made it more about football and made the mistake. That is not the Cowboys front office philosophy. They're still saying their backs are good and gaslighting us into thinking other things. But I think it's a front office issue more than like player fit wise. Actually, I still love it a lot. Money makes sense. Capital's probably cheaper, but front office is probably an issue there. So will the Cowboys make a trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. It is the pinned comment on today's video, so go get those predictions in, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Chris B, maybe Mike McCarthy doesn't know how to use motion. He's old. The motion stuff has become in vogue after Mike McCarthy established himself as an offensive mind. There is a very strong credence to the theory of, yeah, he's kind of fallen behind a little bit in how he views things. I kind of buy that one there. Got several Tommy DC super chats and also a Dwayne Jackson super chat. We'll go to Tommy DC first here. Then we'll get to his other one about Deuce Vaughn. Mark my words. Al Harris will be a DC somewhere else next year and will miss chance to make him our head coach and choose his staff. He's going to be great at it like he has been. So I'll preface by saying I love what I've seen from Al Harris. I think he's done a fantastic job helping coach up your DBs, even though your DBs have had some issues the past half year, going back to last season. I do want to acknowledge that. I like Al Harris a lot. I'm not making him my head coach right now. I need to focus on, I think, an offensive mind first and foremost. And I think hiring a head coach who has never been a DC and might be a DC somewhere next year kind of isn't the path I want to go down. And he's not ready for it yet. This is not, to me, a Sean Payton situation, which the timing didn't work out for you anyway, because you still had Bill Parcells. If you lose Al Harris, that stinks. I will not lie to you. But I'm not going to make him my head coach as a result. He has to prove himself as a DC first. I think I'd rather have a DC conversation than a head coach conversation right now. Also from Tommy DC, all I've heard all my life is the NFL is an opportunist league. Deuce is an opportunity waiting to happen. Give him the ball. My issue with Deuce Vaughn is this. If your plan is to just run him right up the middle with inside zone, it's not going to work. Duo fits him pretty well with the differences there in terms of how you down block and kind of run some counters off of it, etc., and go against the grain. Like, he fits that pretty well. He fits outside zone great. But if it's going to be halfback dive, halfback dive, halfback dive, that's a coaching issue, which is kind of my bigger point with McCarthy. Are they utilizing any of their players properly? Not enough, at minimum. Today's show was made possible by BetUS. If you're feeling good about the Cowboys' chances, you want to go with the road dog or bet against them even, do it with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Cowboys are a 1-point dog. The over-under set at 44. That might change closer to kickoff, by the way. Under feels kind of tasty in this one, by the way, which I hate taking unders, but makes some sense. Go to chatsports.com/bets. That'll take you right to the BetUS site. Use promo code Cowboys125 for a 125% deposit bonus. Again, that is chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125 with the 125% deposit bonus coming once you put down at least 100. As a reminder, the favorite is just the spread. The over-under is the combined over-under. So it's both teams getting more than or less than 44 points. Dwayne Jackson. Is it just me, or almost every press conference, Mike McCarthy looks defeated? It seems the weight of Jerry Jones is weighing on him. He doesn't want to be there anymore. Look, when Mike took a shot at Nick Harris that was like totally uncomfortable, what he apologized for, as I kind of thought he was going to, that was a pretty clear sign. He's stressed. And I don't blame him. He's fighting for his job. And he probably feels like the front office failed him. And I agree with all of that too. But I think there is some semblance of, look, this is not an easy job. You deal with the media. You deal with the national media, maybe even more so sometimes. You got Jones is looming over you. Like there's constant attention when there shouldn't be attention even. It's not an easy job. And I think I don't think Mike knew what he was getting into when he first took this job. I think he learned as he went, but I think it's still kind of tiring here. From We Don't Wife These 304s, replace McCarthy with Dan Rodgers. Nah, Mike's a better coach. He's also a better coach than me. I just like to point stuff out that I think he can do better at. From Will Marshall, $10 super chat. My expectations have been the lowest they have ever been. We're getting mediocre product with no ground game, no roster improvement. Honestly, a front office won't get the point until the fans take a stand. I get the message, Will. I don't know. This is what bothers me the most. What can we really do? Even if we don't go to games anymore, the corporates are going to buy them. Well, how they sell the tickets so fast? They buy them and use them for clients and sell the tickets. One game covers the rest of the season ticket costs. Like it's, I know that Jerry hears the frustration, but sometimes that just makes him dig in more, you know? And Steven goes for this too, just as much. Whenever I say Jerry at this point, it's the Jones boys, plural. Brian, would you be aggressive and trade for multiple players like Reddick, Herbert, and someone else? If you were focused on trying to win games this year, you'd be working the phones like hell because you know your team is not talented enough. I don't think that's their mindset. And I kind of get it to an extent. Like you kind of missed your window, right? You're trying to find real impact, off-season level impact at maybe wide receiver, at running back, defensive line, defensive end now needs help. You've got multiple holes that you can't handle. And you can't fill all at once. That's kind of why, unless you get more than just a rental, I'm kind of looking at being maybe holders right now. I can keep my powder dry. As it sits right now, October 3rd, Thursday, what should Dallas be at the NFL trade deadline? B for buyers, S for sellers, H for holders. Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Shark4288, a $20 super chat. You think McCarthy is sabotaging the team? I'll stop this right now. No. Same with Dan Quinn did not sabotage your team either. This is not I am so mad, I'm going to hurt my own chances of the future job opportunities by making my team worse. It's not how NFL coaches operate. It's not how many people operate, frankly. Unless you're a sick person, more often than not. He's not sabotaging on purpose. I just think he's not calling the right plays, and his schematic is outdated. It wasn't on purpose. It's merely incompetence is what we're at. From Roman Wolf Gaming, the problem is McCarthy couldn't motivate anybody. He caused over 5 penalties on my team. I'm going to bench you for at least 2 plays. There's also this part, too. From a player perspective, this is how you kind of can lose the team. Not saying you're there yet. It could if it continues to turn ugly these next few weeks, this next month or so. The same messaging over and over and over again, it wears on you. That's why sometimes you need a fresh voice. And if the messaging and the mindset of the players is you keep saying the same thing and you're not really helping us, I think there at times has been some disagreements between the quarterback and receiver together and your head coach and play caller. I don't think they've always seen eye to eye. And that's how things in general can turn from me to we, and it all gets a little bit ugly. Now, we will have plenty of future mailbags here on the Cowboys Report. Subscribe. That way you don't miss out. Object Pawar, if Mike McCarthy's the problem, Dak should call the plays. This can be your short-term solution. The real one is go get a better play caller. Go hire Ben Johnson or something. And I love what Ben Johnson does. I think he's a really good offensive mind. Question mark as head coach hasn't done before, obviously. But this for me comes back to Mike's the problem there. If the solution is the quarterback do everything, oh boy, that's asking a lot. That Brady and Manning-esque is kind of what you're hoping there, and it's not fair for Dax. Marcus Arnold, I think Martin's still great. Just currently got an inconsistent seal to his right and a rookie to his left. Drop off can't be helped. Okay, I get where you're coming from there. I would still keep Zach Martin because I think that drop off might be worse if you go to TJ Bass. From Carl, would you trade for Kyle Pitts? We're back again here, aren't we? We're like the Falcons probably next year if they start the year slowly. We're a 3-loss streak from the asking for Bijan Robinson from the Falcons too. How are you going to use him? I think the Falcons have some issues there. They've kind of almost made him a receiver. Just let him do some inline stuff still. It's kind of weird usage more often than not. I think he's a little bit slow to recover from some injury stuff he's had, which is kind of a concern. But also this part, is McCarthy going to use him right? The two tight end package, Pitts needs to be a focal point of your offense. He's not going to be with Lamb, and he probably wouldn't be with Jake Ferguson. So I don't know if the fit is right. Plus, I doubt the Falcons trade him anyway because it's been a top 5 pick on him. It's too important. Name a player you want to trade for. Sound off in the comment section of today's show. Food review. Is a 4th-round pick worth it for a guy like James Conner / Etienne when you can use that pick on Amari Hampton or Taj Brooks? Can't without mentioning my Red Raider GOAT. There you go, buddy. Hampton might be before 4th-round pick, by the way. No one's been because UNC sucks this year, or at least it's not good enough this year. But he's a good player. Brooks is a fun player. Not sure if the NFL is high on him, by the way. But in general, when it comes, let me put it this way. When it comes to using assets, let's say let's call it a premium asset. So it's a 3rd, a 2nd, a 1st, whatever. You trade for one. Everyone feels a lot better if you do a premium asset spending on a back. If you do a lot of other things too. That's why you can't just not address your needs and go, let's take a running back in the 1st round too. Even if it's Ashton Jeanty at pick 18, he's the best player on your board. You've got to find a way to fill your other needs so you can do that. That's what this Cowboys team hasn't done a good job of in recent seasons, in the offseason. Shark 4228 or 4288 says, Tom, you're right. I should have thought about that. He would improve sabotage. My bad. You're good. You're good. I know you're not the only one to have that thought. Let's go. What's next here? Tommy DC. You made every point why coaching is the problem with the Deuce Vaughn explanation. This has been our legacy for 30 years. Wasting talent because of poor coaching. Jeremy the picks, but also chose the coaches. In the end, the buck stops with the Cowboys front office. It stops with ownership. And outside of them saying, well, yeah, how could you feel any other way about it, and not actually saying it's our fault, they don't really take much accountability. That's my issue. And I don't know if it's ever going to change. It's not going to get better, I don't think, with Steven in charge either. Dwayne Jackson. The Cowboys draft a running back in the 2025 draft. Probably. How early, I don't know. But I'd be a little surprised with all those draft picks with I think it's a pretty clear glaring need. And also 2 guys under contract next year. It's just Lipke and got one more year than RFA. And Deuce Vaughn, yeah, they're going to need it back again. Today's super chat menu. I do owe a shot, by the way, if you can grab that for me for the $20 that came in earlier. $50 for the beer bong, $100 the bong, slap, and shot trio. $500 is the custom Cowboys jersey. Most hundreds in October gets the MVP jersey. As Roman Wolf Gaming says, imagine having Adams, Cooper, and Lamb. Yeah, it'd be great. It's obviously not going to happen. Not saying that you are. It'd be really fun. Be entertaining. You got 3 good playmakers, guys that can get open, guys that can make plays, guys that know your coach or your scheme or your team. Like, I'm all for it. It's just not feasible. The idea is super fun. The likelihood of it is just not. It's at 0. It's at 0. When the Cowboys make moves, it's normally for a receiver, but they're not going to make 2, I don't think, in the same offseason. So, cheers to you guys. Shot coming in. Waiting to see on Trayvon Diggs here if there's any updates. I'm a little bit worried about that one. I don't like him leaving mid-practice. Nothing. Nothing at all. Did he tweet? He's a tweeter. Now, his last tweet was about your boy, Zabin Brown. That's Chris's boy because Bama guy. Okay. Clarence says he was walking in the locker room without a limp. Probably good. We'll check in on that in a little bit here now. We don't wipe these 304s. Replace McCarthy with it's Mike White and not to be trite on Twitter. Good guy, by the way. I'm more intrigued by that one. We will go for it on 4th down every time. Not mad at it. And we'll have the best fed team in the NFL if we don't already. Marcus, Tom, in your opinion, what 4 players need to play great for the Cowboys to win their next 3 games? Boy, next 3 is... I don't know if you can. I don't know if you're good enough. Dak Prescott is the easy answer there. CeeDee Lamb. Dak/Lamb. Let's call that connection number 1. Specifically for Pittsburgh, it might actually be Terrence Steele. We'll talk about that in a minute. Lions, it might be your safeties and linebackers reading things properly. Honestly, I got too many than 4. I need Diggs to play well. I need Osa. I need Mozzie. I need so many different levels of my defense. I need my entire offense. Like I need a lot to go right in these next 3 games to win them all. And frankly, to be quite honest, I just want to get 1. Because if I can't get 1 of those games, that's where it gets dicey. Schedule gets a little bit easier once you're past San Francisco and you get beyond Texans and Philadelphia. But I got to get 1 of these next 3. It's a good question, Marcus, because there's a lot of names that I think fit very, very well. Before we preview Sunday Night Football and the Cowboys and the Steelers, I want you guys to troll our Steelers now host Jack Sperry. Now, we've had an issue last week where if you just type in F name, YouTube blocks some people. So I'm trying to avoid that. So instead, FJS, 3 letters, all one word, hopefully doesn't get anybody flagged for bullying, which it's all in good fun because he's doing it on the Steelers show too, so it's not a big deal. Most comments does get a free raffle entry for our Sunday Night Football raffle. So flood FJS in the comment section right now. Cowboys-Steelers could be a very good matchup. The over-under is kind of fluctuated. The Steelers still a 1-point favorite in this one. This weather might not be great. We'll see what it actually looks like at kickoff, but certainly is a game to monitor. A big one for the Cowboys. It's a tough slate coming up. A win would be very, very helpful. Now, the Cowboys injury report, not great. Micah Parsons, Brandin Cooks are not going to play. We'll see about Caelen Carson and his shoulder. We'll see what that's trending towards overall. He was limited on Wednesday and Thursday, or from this Thursday evening, by the way. Markquese Bell was a full participant. He's going to be good to go. Rico, that'll hurt his wrist, but he was a full participant on Thursday. Same with Tyler Guyton, so I'm not worried there. Trayvon Diggs on Thursday did pop up with an ankle injury. He wasn't limping in the locker room, but this is certainly one to monitor because it means it happened during a practice. So we'll keep our eyes peeled for Trayvon Diggs. Hopefully nothing bad, but that'd be a massive loss if he's even if he's a bit banged up. You need him out there with no Deron Bland right now. Pittsburgh, meanwhile, doesn't sound like Alex Highsmith, Jalen Warren, or Cordero Patterson will play in Sunday Night Football. Now, again, film this on Thursday. We'll probably know for certain once the video goes out, but I did want to acknowledge it as a real possibility. Highsmith will impact Tyler Guyton, not Terrence Steele. More on that in a second. And we'll talk about the ground game for Pittsburgh as well. So let's talk matchups to watch. And number one for me is Terrence Steele versus TJ Watt. And it's not going to be TJ Watt versus Tyler Guyton. The Steelers don't move Watt around. They keep him over the right tackle. That is where he comes from 98% of the time. It is very rare when they move him around. It's a nerve-wracking matchup. Terrence Steele's been better this year. He's been better than the past two games than what we saw last season. I don't feel good about anybody going up against TJ Watt, though. This is a superstar caliber pass rusher. This is an NFL Defensive Player of the Year contender every single season. It is. Well, it is a matchup I don't like. And if you're Mike McCarthy, I think you have to chip and help Terrence Steele against TJ Watt. I can't put him on an island, which means I've probably got to put my left tackle on an island. We'll come back to that later on in today's show. But what is your confidence level in the Cowboys beating the Steelers? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1 on the low end, 10 on the high end. It's the pinned comment, so if the ad comes on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and go vote. And also type FJS. Number 2, I don't know how much will shadow, but I think you'll see plenty of CeeDee Lamb on Joey Porter Jr. because, I don't know, if I'm Pittsburgh, I'm not letting Beanie Bishop cover CeeDee Lamb. That's probably a bad idea. I think Lamb has room to be even better than what we've seen so far this campaign. I genuinely, if he ain't getting 10 touches a game, or you're trying to, I kind of think you're making some mistakes. Now, JPJ hasn't been that great this year. It was better last year, I thought. Hasn't been targeted that much, but the Colts picked on him. With Josh Downs and Michael Pittman. Joey Porter Jr. is a good football player. I'm not afraid of force-feeding CeeDee Lamb. In fact, I want to force-feed CeeDee Lamb regardless of who is going up against him. Number 3 matchup, the Dallas Cowboys against heavy personnel. Now, this is a little bit weird for Pittsburgh since Connor Hayward is listed as a tight end, but does fullback stuff for them too, so keep that in mind when we go through these personnel ranks. What matters the most to me is this. 11 personnel, 3 receivers. Pittsburgh is a bottom 5 team in using it 42% of the time. They run a bunch of 2 tight end stuff with Pat Freiermuth and our good friend Darnell Washington. They run a bunch of 13 personnel, which includes Hayward/Michael Pruitt, who's Arthur Smith's boy, and some 21 personnel stuff too, which is when they get creative with 2 backs out there. And that's 5th. They're not going to do a bunch of 3 receiver stuff. It's going to be a lot of heavy personnel. So it's base defense again. And hopefully 2 high safeties to help stop the Justin Fields run, which I think is easier from 2 high than it is single high. Puts you in some better angles there. And that means they're going to run the football. Pittsburgh runs the ball a lot. Cowboys' run defense has not been very good this year. Even after shutting down the Giants. And they're 27th in yards per game, last in stuff rate, a lot of yards after contact, a lot of outside runs. Pittsburgh is fairly balanced with their inside runs and outside runs on offense, but they are a volume ground game. They are not an efficient ground game. One thing to note, they have a tell at a pretty decent clip. Most of it's play action when not, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having a tell, which is good for Pittsburgh, by the way. They use motion on run plays. When they got motion going on, it is a run 63% of the time. That 37% pass motion rate is dead last in football. It is in many ways the opposite of how you use your motion. So that's something to certainly keep an eye on. Coming off of that then is this part. The Cowboys against play action. Pittsburgh loves play action. It is a staple of the Arthur Smith offense. They have been a heavy play action team so far this year. Some of the highest rates in football. I think it's top 5, or I think he's 4th overall in play action rate. Sorry, 2nd in play action at 37%, which I find pretty funny. That's the exact same as their pass motion. I don't think it's 1-to-1, but still. Second most play action from Justin Fields among quarterbacks this year. He has not been great with it, though. He really hasn't. High completion percentage, only 5.5 yards per attempt. It's a lot of short stuff. He's taking some sacks. No touchdowns yet this year. The Steelers do a lot of play action and a lot of runs, but they are not efficient when they do that. In fact, Justin Fields, out of the 33 qualifying QBs in play action EPA per dropback, is bottom 5th. He's 29th. Bottom 5. Behind not great names, Bryce Young and Bo Nix and Deshaun Watson and Caleb Williams, who's not played great. It's not all his fault, but still, not a great group. Cowboys defense, though, is 8th in EPA per play allowed on play action stuff. Now, the stuff involving Derek Carr's deep bomb hurts you pretty heavily there. That's a pretty big EPA play that kind of skews it in the wrong direction no matter what. But they're going to run the ball and do play action. You have to be ready for it. And hopefully, you force a turnover or two. So get the Cowboys turnover chain. That's chatsports.com/Cowboys chain. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. And also be a clickable link over there in the far right-hand corner. Over there. So go click it today. chatsports.com/Cowboys chain. Fifth matchup, the Cowboys against the number 1 run defense in football. That depends on how you measure it. But the numbers don't lie very much for this Steelers team. They are 3rd in yards per game allowed on the ground, 2nd in yards per carry, 10th in stuff rate, 1st in EPA per carry, that includes some turnovers mixed in there, 3rd in yards before contact, 9th in yards after contact. They have faced pretty balanced inside and outside runs, and they do it by mostly stacking the box. 29% stack box rates. That's, 8 men in the box. Or 7 men in the box, I should say 7. That's pretty noteworthy. They are willing to load up that box. And they are willing to, they don't do a ton of light boxes. They're kind of average there. They tend to kind of do some early down stuff where it's a little bit heavier. Part of that's the person they've been playing against. But they are not afraid of putting an extra guy in that box and saying, okay, 8 men, let's do it. 7 men's neutral, 6 is light. So if they're going to try to stop the run, you got to get some big plays through the air. And big plays, period. This is kind of your bonus matchup. Explosive plays are terrible right now in Dallas. Now, the passing explosive plays have been good. They're tied for 12th. I want it to be higher, but they have 11. They are dead last in rushing explosive plays. That's a 10-plus yard carry or a 20-plus yard catch. They are 31st in football with 15 explosive plays. There's no big chunk stuff. If you get some stacked boxes, let's try some deep shots, see what happens. What side of the ball do you trust more right now? O for offense, D for defense. Let me know in the comments section of today's show. What side of the ball do you trust more? Let's go 1 to 5. Some players to watch this week. Number 1 is Tyler Guyton. Look, he's not going to get TJ Watt. He's going to get a lot of probably Nick Herbig, maybe some DeMarvin Leal, all things that are fair and valid. I need better play out of Tyler Guyton. He because it's not TJ Watt over him, you probably got to try to put him on an island some, unless you want to do a bunch of max protect stuff, which I would honestly hate. I don't think that's a very good idea. I would frankly call it a mistake to go down that path. I'm a bit worried here, but he needs to play well and not have so many back-breaking penalties. Number 2 player to watch is Marshawn Kneeland. And look, there's no Micah Parsons, no Tank Lawrence. It is his time to step up. He is going to have to make an impact. He is going to play a lot against the run and against the pass. He was really good week 1 against the this is, I think, where you kind of had the benefit of a bad Browns offensive tackle room like Kneeland feasted. Been pretty quiet since then. Now is the time for him to show up. So how many sacks will the Cowboys get against theirs? Fields will hold that ball a little bit. He'll also bail from the pocket, do some fun stuff. You almost want to contain and make you beat you as a pocket passer. How many sacks, though? Let me know in the comments of today's show. Number 3, safeties. And I'm kind of curious, do you see some changes here, personnel-wise? Do you give Markquese Bell some more run? Malik Hooker has not been good enough. Donovan Wilson has not been good enough. You made him a tackle, and he missed a surefire TFL that cost you 3 points. Kind of don't like that. I have been disappointed by the play of your safeties. Undoubtedly, I have been disappointed. I mean, it bothers me because I thought they were going to be a lot better than this. They haven't been so far. So against Pittsburgh, be better, or else at some point, like you can't have your players saying about accountability and doing their jobs and everything, and then not making changes if guys aren't doing it. Got to back it up. Now, we will be live for the Cowboys versus Steelers game on Sunday Night Football, so hit that sub button if you haven't already, youtube.com/CowboysTV. Number 4 is Jalen Tolbert. I want to put in Ryan Flournoy-Turpin, that's fine too, but he is now your number 2 receiver. He's going to be out there even more. I actually have liked him fighting for the ball in some contested catch stuff. If you're going to call those, I hate them, the hitch routes, I don't like them, but still, if you're going to keep calling them, get to Tolbert, not Brandin Cooks, who's out anyway. We need Madden Tolbert, right? Those of you who have been subbed for a long time. I need Madden Tolbert to show up in this one. Number 5, the Cowboys' interior defensive line. And I'm cheating because I'm really talking about Highsmith and Osa Odigizua, plus your depth pieces. The Steelers' interior O-line is banged up. It's going to be a rookie in Zach Frazier, a rookie in Mason McCormick, who has not been nearly as good as Frazier's been really good, by the way. He's an awesome player, go figure. And probably some Spencer Anderson. Maybe they get Isaac Malo back, but it's a banged up group on the interior of that offensive line, and maybe it's still Anderson ends up playing over McCormick instead, who I don't think is that great anyway. They're banged up. I need my defensive tackles. It's been a very quiet start to the year from Osa Odigizua. I need more from him. Highsmith, I thought, has played really good football the past 5 quarters. Let's make it 9. Let's keep stacking good performances. That is what you need out of that defensive tackle room. Who we got in this one? C for the Cowboys, S for the Steelers. Let me know by typing in C or S right now. It's at 75% Cowboys, Chris. That's so low. That's so much lower than what we normally see. It's much lower. So get those votes in, C or S, in the comments section. Who we got in this one? Then we'll get to Geo Justice 10's super chat here in a moment. But who we got? C's, S's. I see Storm says S, just kidding. C. Joseph says C. Clayton says C. Jets Setter says S. Clayton says C. Postit Pro 02 says C. Ecuadorman says S. Get it. I get the concerns there. Geo Justice 10. Hey, Tom, hot take here. Kind of off topic. Trade for Adams, draft running back Ashton Jeanty for Boise State. Some issues fixed. Offensively, that is. It does help you. You're also down, let's say, your first round pick and your third round pick. That gives you 1 pick next year in the second where you're bad at. And this kind of comes back to like my conversation about the backs. Cool. He's a great player. You're picking at 20. He's probably the best player on your board. But wherever you're picking, in that range-ish, got to do other stuff too. Because you're right. You fixed your running back and you feel great about your wide receiving core even though Adams is getting up there in age. I got a lot of other stuff I have to fix. That's why you can't get people on board with drafting a back early when you're not fixing your other more impactful, less impacted needs. Again, we'll be live for Cowboys Steelers on Sunday Night Football. Then a quick turnaround for Monday's live show. Don't miss out. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/@CowboysTV.